Okay, today I'm going to be doing a review of the Beecore F3 EVO flight controller, brushed flight controller board. This is the DSM-2 version, but these are made especially for like the Inductrix or the Eachine E010 quad. And I will be installing it and converting a E010 quad today with this. A couple of things to notice. Now in the box you get the flight controller, and this is the DSM-2 antenna and the USB port. If you notice, you have sockets for the motors. The Eachine E010 does not come with motors with sockets, so I'm going to replace the motors as well, because I don't want to solder to the motors to this. I want to use the sockets on here. The other thing it comes with, this is another thing it comes with, is the Jst Connector. Now, this battery connector doesn't fit either the batteries on the original E010 or the Inductrix, so I'm not real sure why this is the one they included, but I won't be using this. I want to use the same batteries that I use on my Tiny Whoop, which I do have one, which are these MyLipo DE 205 milliamp. And so I've got a connector that I will use instead that will match this battery. Okay. Okay. The Beecore also comes with these standoffs, and I think these will be good for the E010 quad. Okay, but we'll get to that in a minute. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to solder up the connector for the battery. Okay, so I'll get set up for that. The other thing I want to talk about is switching the Eachine E010 over to use that kind of battery. Now, this is the battery I will be using, okay, and if you notice, it won't fit in because of this back piece here. So what you do is you remove the QC sticker there, and then I cut a little bit out. Okay. Another thing to notice on this, it may be hard to see, but there's a little nub inside that helps hold the original battery in. I just take an X-Acto knife and cut that off. Okay. Now I've already got one. This is the one I'm going to be converting. I've got it prepared. You can see I've cut out the little notch in the back, and I've shaved off that little knob on the inside, and then I cut a 18 millimeter by 32 millimeter piece of 3 millimeter Depron. Any 3 millimeter foam would work, but that allows me to, that'll fit in there. Oh, and this notch, I used some clippers and an X-Acto knife to trim out shape in there. You can kind of measure and cut it out. I didn't want to cut out the whole end because I wanted it to hold the foam in. So that'll hold the foam in like that. And then when this battery goes in, it's a snug fit and it'll go through. And then I use that end of the foam to kind of line it up for proper center of gravity. So, and that works pretty well. The foam, you know, it's easily replaceable. If you don't have Depron, you can use any kind of 3 millimeter thick foam. Just cut it to 18 millimeters wide by 32 millimeters long, and that'll help get it positioned right. I've also got another battery that's a little shorter that I also use, that I want to use in this, and it fits as well too. It'll go in there and fit like that. Okay, but before we do all that, before I do the complete conversion here, I want to prepare the board. Okay, So I am going to pause now and set up my soldering station and get this battery pigtail soldered on. And really, that's the only soldering that needs to be done in this conversion. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, the soldering iron's hot. I have everything I need here. I just want to point out here that the board is intended to be mounted on the quadcopter like this. This is forward. That means that motor 1 is in this corner, and that's correct. You can see on here, this is motor 1, motor 2, and motor 3, and motor 4. Okay, now I want, when this is down, I want the pigtail, the battery pigtail, to come from underneath. So if you notice, ground VCC, so I want to make the make sure I get the red wire in the VCC. These are pre-tinned already. Okay, now I use this sticky tack stuff to hold things in place, keep things solid while I solder it. And it doesn't need much. Hot enough. I like to check, make sure I got a good solder connection there. That looks good. And those will come out the back like that. Now I can go back and put some epoxy over that, but I'll do that later. Okay. So I have those in the proper place. Okay. And so now that's all the soldering that's required. After that, we'll mount it in there, and I'll be right back for that. Okay, now we're ready to transplant this into the Eachine E010. So as you look at this, this is forward. I want to keep the orientation right. And so let's see what we've got to do here. Take the canopy off. You just slip it off with a little peg there, and it comes off the other side pretty easy. We'll set that aside. You know, this is why I chose these motors with the plug connectors. Notice the stock board that comes in the E010, the motors are soldered on. Now it's pretty easy to remove. There's only 2 screws to remove here, but since these are soldered, I don't want to clip those wires. I could, but I may want to use these motors and these props in my other, well, I'll use the props here, but I may want to use the motors as spares in my other E010. So I'm going to be a little bit careful. So to take these off, what you do is you come down here. I push them out a little bit first, and then I've got this tool that I can pry the motors off, propellers off with. Just give them a little bit of a wiggle there, and they'll come on off. I'll do that on all 4 motors. Okay, now the motor wires are wired through there. They've got these little clips. I just realized something. Because of the way this is made, I'm gonna have to desolder those wires. They're not gonna fit through. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm just gonna close by desoldering. But you might want, if you want to be clean about it, you could desolder the wires. I thought maybe you didn't have to do that, but the way they're threaded through there, you can't get the motors out without them detached from the board. Okay, so we got the wires clipped. Set them out of the way. There we go. Okay, that gets all the original motors out of there. Now I can remove the flight controller. You'll need a jeweler's screwdriver. Now if you notice, the E010, it only is held down with 2 screws, and it differs from the Inductrix. The Inductrix has 4 mount points for its board, and the Beecore has a place for 4 mounting spots so that it will fit on the Inductrix, but it will also fit on the Eachine using the 3. Now, be sure you keep the orientation correct. The orientation is forward where that other mount point is, and that's important so that the battery is in there correctly. Okay. So this is going to go on here like that, okay? Now, you probably could mount it hard like that, but the USB is going to be hard to get to, and I was kind of curious as to how these little standoffs, why these were supplied, and I think it's to rise it up off of the board so that the USB port clears. That's kind of what I'm hoping. Well, plus it's got the little round, if you look at these, it's got a little round, these are rubber, okay, and it's got a little round notch in there that fits in these, okay, like that, okay, and then it fits on the others, and I'm guessing it will squish down a little bit, but we only need 3 of these because there is no mount point in the back, Okay. So those are going to go like that, and then those will go on there, and then you'll screw them down. And I'm guessing that they're rubber, so I'm guessing they'll slip around that a little bit. We'll see. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and get the motors in there. So let me set that there, now that I kind of know how it goes. This rear mount for the old board had a couple of rubber washers on it, but I don't think I will need those. Okay, because there's no place on the board to mount it for that point. So let me go ahead and get the motor. So this is forward, okay, and if you replace the motors, instead of reusing the old ones and trying to solder them, I've got, these were some spares I had for the Inductrix, but I wanted to just go ahead and use them on this. I've got a lot of motors. So the red and blue are clockwise motors, so they will go in motor position 1 and motor position 4. Okay, and so I'll thread those, the plug through, and then go ahead and I can go ahead and seat those in there. Okay, and one and 4 are clockwise. And then the black and white are the counterclockwise, so they will go in 2 and 3. Probably should have wrapped those a little bit. Okay. Okay, and then once you have the motors in there, you can thread them through the little, remember you're going to have to plug these into the board, so we'll put them up through here. And we'll take care of any wrapping up any excess wire when we figure out where everything is going. And I think these little, you know, you will need to feed them through these little clips. So now that we've got those threaded in, we can see about plugging them into our board. Now, the board on how low it sits. It's going to go like this, and the plugs are, let's see, no, it's going to go like this. Okay, and the plugs are right underneath there. So I think what I'm going to do is wrap those around a couple of times to get rid of some of the excess wire. So come up here like so, come up there, and maybe, I don't know if it'll go one more time or not. Maybe. It might be kind of hard to get it plugged in though. So I'm going to just go around once on each one. I'll speed this up so you don't have to watch it. Okay, so that's forward, that's forward. I'll get rid of these little rubber things for now. So trying to get these bent over so they kind of stay until I'm ready for them. Okay, checking my orientation. Now the motors, if you look at the pins, I like to see, notice the pins are all to the, toward this side. If you're going counterclockwise, they're all toward that direction, like in a circle. So I'll keep that in mind as I put this on. Okay. So for motor 1, motor 1 is going to go in like that. Then motor 2 is going to go in like that. Okay, so far. Then 4 next. Motor 4 is going to go in like that. And motor 3 is going to go in like that. Okay, so all the motors are in. Okay, now notice I've still got quite a bit of excess wire. Okay, so that's all, those are going to be above the battery compartment, so that's okay. And you could, now notice, see I've got some loose wires here. I might decide to do something different later, but I'll go ahead and do this. So let's go ahead and put in the rubber grommets. Just want to be sure you don't crush the motor wires. Okay, and then I've got these long screws. Now they actually gave you plenty. They gave you 6 of these. Not sure why 6, but that lets you lose 1 or 2 and still have enough to, like I almost did there. Okay. It's a little bit fiddly. So now I'm gonna, you'll have to compress it a little bit to get the screw okay, let me try something else here. I'm thinking maybe you have to put that over. I don't suppose they intended those to go upside down, did they? Maybe they did. No, it couldn't be. Let me try something here. Okay, if you get those started a little bit, maybe that's the trick. So looks like they go down over the post. They kind of fit around, there's a little post and it kind of goes around that. And then when you put the screw in and press down a little bit, it engages the hole. Okay, that's pretty good. So now let's see if I can get that around there. Yeah, that did it. Okay. So once you get the screw in a little bit, then you can at least put those two on. Okay, so those are those. Now let's see about this other one. Well, the front one. That's why they gave you extra screws, because it is easy to lose one. And that one got it in there that time. Okay, so now we can tighten these down. And that's in there pretty solid. Okay. Plus, it's got some vibration mounting. Now it's real hard to tell how tight, but I just like to get them level. One thing I wish, see, there is no connection for the back here, okay? Now, I want to check my battery, see how it's going to line up. So put that in there. Yeah, I think I will run my battery underneath my battery lead. I think I'm going to run it underneath there so that it comes out down there. Okay. Now the only thing, the wires, you might want to do something to get them, make sure they stay tucked in. I mean, I don't think they're in danger of getting cut by propellers or anything, but just the loose wires. And I've got my DSM2 receiver here. Now eventually I am going to install an FPV camera on this. I'm not going to do that right now. I want to fly it just like it is first, but this is a TX02, an Eachine TX02, very small, tiny little camera. Okay, I'm not going to do that yet, and I will solder another pigtail on to the top of this where I soldered the battery in order to power this, and this will eventually, it'll eventually go on like that. But for now, I just want to get this thing hooked up and ready to go as a line of sight build, to check it out and check the clean flight settings and everything. One thing that I've noticed is I don't think the canopy will go back on there. I think with those spacers it's too high, okay? Yeah, it won't reach down to those, okay? So if you didn't want to make an FPV, you could just have some sticky tape on that to hold the canopy down, fly it like that. But for now, let's go ahead and finish this up. We're almost done. The only thing left to do are the propellers. Make sure that you get the clockwise and counterclockwise on the right spot. So this is motor number 1. It gets a clockwise propeller. Okay, and I can just push that down on there. And then motor number 2, you will want to keep your antenna out of the way. Motor 2 gets a counterclockwise. Propeller. Motor 3 gets counterclockwise. And motor 4 gets counterclockwise. Motor 3 gets counterclockwise. Motor 4 gets clockwise. Okay, so there it is, ready to fly. My battery, I can either, doesn't matter if I put it right side down or upside down, doesn't matter. Actually, I can put it this way so that I measured the foam so that this thing will kind of catch on the foam for center of gravity. Okay. And then when I plug it in, you just need to make sure you plug it in correctly. It will go like this. I'm not going to plug it in yet. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and plug it into Clean Flight. I may flash Beta Flight on it. I think my USB cable will fit in there without interference. That was my hope. I didn't want to take it apart every time, especially as hard as these little things are to get on. Didn't want to take it apart every time I needed to flash it or adjust my PIDs or something. So we'll just fly it like this. I'll get to the computer and I'll go through those steps. But that's the build. Not much of a build, just fiddling with the small wires and stuff, but that's not too bad. Okay, I'll be back later. Okay, I've taken care of all the Clean Flight configuration, and I left it on Clean Flight for now. Most of the settings were okay. I had to, of course, pick my correct radio to get the receiver communicating. Binding was easy. You just plug in a battery, and when it starts flashing, you do the buying procedure, at least on my DX8 transmitter. Let's get a final weight. This is with the 205 milliamp battery. And so that's going to give a flying weight of 23 grams about, which is pretty good. The camera, when I add it later, that'll add another 3 or 4 grams. So that's going to be a pretty nice, light little machine to fly around the house. A couple of thoughts on it. I'm very pleased with it. It's a nice board to soup up your either your Inductrix or your E010. The only thing that I would do different is for the Beecore, if they would include a couple of different battery connectors in with the board. The one that they include is for a totally different battery than either the Inductrix or the E010. Other than that, it's a great board. I will leave links in the description of the video for the Beecore F3 flight controller and for the Eachine E010 quad. Banggood has also some nice documentation for the Beecore on its website. I discovered after I found out a lot of things on my own, but it's a real good manual. I'll put a link in the description for that as well. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll finish off. I'll leave you with a little flight video around my living room. Thanks for watching. Look out, Allie. Look out, Allie. Look out, baby. Look out, Allie. flies very well. I'm going to have to set some expo though in clean flight. Very, very sensitive. Well, that was a good first flight. Thanks for watching.